The Batman Arkham franchise is the most influential superhero gaming franchise ever, and it didn't get there without brushing things under the rug, hiding cool secrets, and building a fascinating world for us to explore. So join me as we delve into some of Arkham City's hidden details, forgotten facts, and oldest mysteries. Before we get into this though, I want to give huge credit to Ranger, Mr. Binks, Dark Sheep, Luis, and SSG, because they uncovered a ton of stuff you'll see in this video, so massive thanks to them. And while we're at it, subscribe. We're so close to 20k subs, so hit that subscribe button, and if you learned something, hit the like button. It genuinely does help a ton. And with all that out of the way, let's get straight into the facts. In retrospect, having the Arkham series be named anything aside from Batman Arkham insert word seems a little bit absurd, but did you know this might not have always been the plan? Well, old posters of Arkham City were discovered on ArtStation, and thanks to Ranger I have them right here, and they show the game's original title was going to be Batman the Last Laugh. Now, we don't know anything about this aside from the fact that it got far enough into development to have these two posters made, which begs the question, why was this even considered to be the title? The obvious pitfall of this title is the fact it completely spoils the ending of the story and Joker's death. We may have become accustomed to it now, but think how insane that is. Rocksteady killed Joker off in their second game, so to have that spoiled in the title seems pretty weird. What's interesting though is that we can still see a remnant of the title in the final game, because there's an achievement you get for taking down Harley Quinn in her DLC Harley Quinn's Revenge, with the achievement being titled The Last Laugh. I think given the breakout success of Arkham Asylum, Warner Brothers would have wanted the sequel to have that Arkham name. After all, the series wasn't established yet, and this might have affected sales right off the bounce if it didn't instantly relate itself to Asylum. Let me know what you think down below, and if you think Batman the Last Laugh is a better or worse title than Arkham City, and why you think it changed. Throughout Arkham City's runtime, you'll come across countless enemy types. Tiger Guards, Joker Thugs, Penguin's Gang, Ivy Thugs, Mad Hatter Soldiers, and that's not even half of them. But did you know there were supposed to be 2 more obstacles for the Dark Knight to punch his way through? Well, thanks to the Wii version of the game and it having a ton of cut content in its files, the 2 cut thugs were discovered. The first was the Joker Lieutenant, a heavily armoured weapon-wielding enemy who had this really cool, almost Leatherface looking design. Apparently he was the precursor to Mr. Hammer, but aside from that, not much is known about him. We do know though why he was cut. Are you ready for this? It's a seriously underwhelming reason, but he was cut because of his apron. Seriously, they just couldn't figure out how to make it work in game. A lackluster end for an otherwise insane looking character who really would have fit in with the Arkham Asylum type world design Rocksteady seemed to be going for in early promotional material for Arkham City. I think this design is so badass. He looks like a killer, and I think he'd have added a bit of grit into the enemy variety for sure. The next cut enemy is definitely intriguing, and from what I've gathered we know little to nothing about him, but he's called the Follower, and would have been something to do with the League of Assassins, perhaps a ninja variation or a commander. The Follower probably has one of the most striking character designs in the franchise. He's literally stark white, and what's most interesting is his trousers, which say Blackgate Death Row on them, meaning this guy was at one point supposed to be executed for something. I can think of a few reasons this guy was cut, but I think the big one for me is that he'd have been a member of the League of Assassins who got captured by Batman and then held on death row by Blackgate staff, which, considering Blackgate's shoddy security reputation, must have been a bit humiliating for him. All jokes aside though, this guy looks awesome, and he's probably my favourite bit of Arkham City's cut content, but it certainly isn't the last bit of cut content from the pinnacle of the Arkham series. If you've played the Arkham games for any amount of time, or spent any time mingling with the inmates of the community, the name Prometheus probably still actually means nothing to you, past the fact he had a character bio in Arkham Asylum, and was then cut from Arkham Knight. However, did you know he was also mentioned in Arkham City? It's a small and easily missed part of the game, but if you head into the old GCPD precinct and take a look at the posters on the wall, you'll find Prometheus on a dossier, including some very interesting dates which further throw the Arkham timeline into disarray. With Prometheus supposedly being released in 1982, which throws a spanner into the works with this series' already insane timeline. Also in the GCPD though, we can find a newspaper clipping which boasts the headline, "Criminal Couple Gunned Down," which is a cut and dry reference to Prometheus' origin story, which is a near mirror of Bruce Wayne's, with his parents being shot and killed by police instead of a criminal, leading to Prometheus becoming the anti-Batman, who targets the do-gooders of Gotham City. With the first two games in the series both hinting at a potential Prometheus appearance and him being cut from Night, it's a little odd he never got a single physical appearance throughout the series. Although since we know the Justice League are canon thanks to Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, there's a decent chance Prometheus fought the Justice League if he was even active at this point. During development of Batman Arkham City, the team at Rocksteady were working on a potential online multiplayer mode. This mode was titled Arkham City Gangland. The mode would actually be later ported to Origins and become Arkham Origins Online, hence why that mode has a lot of Arkham City's assets in it. What's interesting is that the Arkham City Gangland mode was cut so early on that the version that became Arkham Origins Online actually had Catwoman in it, and she was supposed to become a new playable character within Arkham Origins Online. I have no idea how this would have worked, but the most important thing is it definitely would have been pretty cool to see what this would have looked like in-game. Let me know what you think of Arkham City Gangland, and if you think it would have been a good addition to the game down below. Personally, I'm in favour of the game having no multiplayer, but hey, that's just me. Anyway, let's move on to the next fact, and thank you to the Atom Smith for this footage. Throughout the Arkham franchise, Poison Ivy is one of the few villains who keeps popping up. After her debut in Asylum, she reappears in Arkham City and helps Catwoman break into Hugo Strange's vault. But that raises an obvious question. How did Ivy end up inside Arkham City in the first place? The city story, Poisonous Intent, fills in the gap between Asylum and City, and this is where it all starts. Ready to turn over a new leaf, Pamela Isley rejected her Poison Ivy persona and opened up a small flower shop in the back streets of Gotham. Surrounded by plants, she was content for a while, but society continued to mistreat her quote-unquote babies, and eventually she snapped. A man came to buy flowers for his wife, obviously feeling guilty about having been unfaithful. Pamela smiled and handed over an elaborate bouquet. The plants came to life, rapidly growing onto his screaming face and piercing his skin with toxic thorns. Pamela laughed, and Poison Ivy was back. After being given an overdose of Titan by the Joker, Poison Ivy was left to die in her airtight cell by Warden Sharp, who blamed her for the mass destruction of Arkham Island. As her health declined, she prayed for salvation. It came in the form of a priest, who was unknowingly covered in pollen from the trees near his church. As he performed the last rites, Ivy manipulated the pollen into an antidote that worked in harmony with the unique natural toxins in her blood, and to the amazement of the priest, she began a full recovery. Furious, Warden Sharp locked her in a biological containment unit and arranged for her to be one of the first criminals sent to Arkham City. I feel like this has become relatively common knowledge within the Arkham community, but in 2011, just before the release of Batman Arkham City, Sefton Hill, the creative director behind Arkham Asylum, City and Night, went on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and the host got to play a demo build of Arkham City to promote it. In this footage, we can see not much changing from the final build, aside from the section Jimmy plays later in the segment, which has Joker doing a little gang initiation with some new recruits. Jimmy enters detective mode and reveals Joker has no bones, hint hint, and then he glides down and takes the thugs on and Joker down. And I must say, Jimmy Fallon kinda has moves with this game. He does surprisingly well for a guy who probably hadn't played Arkham Asylum. Anyway, after they're taken out, the demo ends. This was considered lost lost media for years but came to light a few years ago, and it gives us a really good look at Arkham City before release. Anyway, let's get into the next fact because, well, it's a doozy.
Nobody cares about Tim Drake.
Within Arkham City's story, around the midway point, the player hunts down a member of Ra's al Ghul's League of Assassins to track her back to the League's hideout to procure some of Ra's blood. On the way, and after being knocked down by the assassin and being saved by Robin, well, that's where we hit a wall with this fact, because at one point, did you know this was supposed to be Nightwing who came to save Bruce and give him the line launcher? We know this because in the files lies a file titled Chapter 4 Meet Nightwing, and this part of the game is indeed Chapter 4, which means that Dick Grayson was definitely planned to be here instead of Tim Drake. It also explains why Nightwing is even in the game to begin with, because if we're being honest with ourselves, as fun as he is to play with, he has literally no impact on the game at all, and only serves as a DLC character to use in challenge mode. There isn't much more to add to this, but let me know if you'd have preferred Nightwing to show up over Robin, and let's move on to our penultimate fact. While playing the Arkham games, you might wonder, how do the supervillains get the buildings they need for their elaborate schemes? Well, contrary to popular belief, they actually do buy them, mostly. See, if we read the city story titled Brokering Deals, we learn that even the scum of Gotham need realtors. Sherman Fine, aka The Broker, has carved out a lucrative business in Gotham City by being the go-to guy to purchase property. Mainly hired by the criminal underclass, Sherman will find and arrange all the necessary paperwork to ensure that the deal will go untraced, while providing exactly what the client needs. In the past, he purchased rooms on behalf of the Great White Shark, Mr. Zsasz, and the Joker. When planning his revenge on Batman, the Riddler took advantage of the broker's services to secure the buildings that would later house his challenges. What we can glean from this is that the broker really is the go-to guy for Gotham's underbelly, but we can go one step further and head to Scarecrow's secret hideout, and on the lower deck of the boat moored outside the amusement park, we can find a Falcone shipping manifest, which has a note on it that reads, "Mr. Fine was very specific about the shipping details and we have followed them to the letter," showing that in some capacity he's working with both the Falcone family, and this might explain how Crane got his penthouse in Chinatown come the events of Batman Arkham Knight. Anyway, let's move on to our final fact. So, Victor Zsasz. You might love him, you might hate him, but did you know Mr. Zsasz is at the epicenter of Arkham's very first timeline contradiction between the games? Not the comics, they never make any sense, but between Arkham City and Asylum. This is the first of many which would follow, and it all stems back to Dr. Sarah Cassidy, the Arkham doctor Victor kidnaps in his Asylum patient interview tapes.
Victor has been in isolation since the attack on Zagar last week. As I wait for him to be brought up to me, I have had time to review his notes. I am increasingly worried he cannot be cured. He has no empathy for his victims. Deep down, I believe he views all of us as potential victims.
Doc, are you okay?
What's happening?
It's Zsasz. He broke out of isolation. He's gone.
Oh, God!
Don't worry, Doc. You're in the safest place. He's definitely left the island.
Of course. But someone needs to alert the authorities. He'll need to kill again. Do you understand me? Needs to. Oh no. He's gone after Dr. Cassidy.
Hello?
Sarah, it's Gretchen. Listen to me.
For the love of... Hold on. There's someone at the door.
Sarah! Do not answer the door. Can you hear me? Do not answer the door. It's Zsasz. He's free.
See, this tape shows us pretty firmly that Cassidy was kidnapped on December 22nd. However, if we go forward a few months to Arkham City and begin tracking the prison's cold call killer, we can scroll through his past convictions while Batman initially profiles Zsasz, and see that the Dr. Cassidy kidnapping actually happened on April 20th, moving the entire Arkham timeline forward for seemingly no reason at all. This is obviously the first in a long line of Arkham retcons, but let me know why you think they did this. Was the plan to render Asylum non-canon despite its effects on the main story, or was this just a small oversight they didn't think anyone would pay attention to? Let me know. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thank you all for watching, let me know how many of these you knew, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.